Welcome, Sundry readers. I hope you enjoy today's story. Please remember to subscribe. It really helps me out. Happy listening. New Faces, New Friends by Arleta Richardson. Chapter 7. Rumors. I glanced at Sarah Jane. She had seen him too, and the look on her face said she didn't plan to stay around and visit. I grabbed her arm. Sarah Jane, if you go off and leave me to cope with Hudson alone, I won't speak to you for the rest of the day. We've got to get rid of him. I certainly don't want Len to see him. Sarah Jane looked grim, but she stayed. Myra and Colleen had wandered off to look at the other handwork. Hudson reached us and took off his hat. "Good morning, ladies. Are you enjoying the fair?" "Good morning, Hudson. We haven't been here very long, but it looks like there's a lot to see." "I'd have thought your interest might run a little more toward the livestock than the homemaker's display," Sarah Jane observed. Hudson's face reddened, and he looked uncomfortable. "Actually, I saw you come in here, so I followed you. Mabel, I really need to talk to you. It's awfully important." "I'm here for the day with friends, Hudson," I replied. "I can't very well run off and leave them. Can it wait until later?" "I suppose it will have to." Hudson's shoulders drooped and his face had the hangdog look that had become so much a part of him lately. "Well, I'll see you another time." He slumped off and we watched in silence as he disappeared. "How did I get mixed up in this?" I muttered. "I don't know what Len would say if he found out." "It's only a matter of time, Mabel. Everything that is hidden will be uncovered." "You are such an encouragement, Sarah Jane. I thought I could always depend on you to help me out. What happened to your words of wisdom and advice? You've never been reluctant to offer them before." She had no chance to reply because the others joined us and we went on to look at the rest of the displays. By noon, we were ready to sit down on the grass and enjoy the picnic dinner we had brought. We didn't see Hudson again during the afternoon, and I tried to put him out of my mind. On Sunday, I had a most peculiar encounter with Gladys Burton. We were standing in the churchyard after the service when she approached me with a determined air. "You had better look out, young lady," she said. "A minister's wife can't afford to have the town talking about her." I looked at her blankly. "Talking?" "Huh," she sniffed. "You don't have to go all innocent with me. You should have known we'd noticed the goings-on between—" "All right, Gladys, that's enough." Zachary Burton took his wife's arm and led her to the buggy. "The only way to stop gossip is to close your mouth." "I'd like to have heard the rest of her sentence," I said to Sarah Jane when I reported it to her. "What in the world is she talking about? If there's any gossip going around, I'd certainly hear it, wouldn't I? Do you know what she meant?" "You're acquainted with Gladys Burton," Sarah Jane replied. "If there's nothing going on in town, she'll manufacture it." This was not a satisfactory answer, and I determined to pin Sarah Jane down and find out what she knew. I would have to wait, though, until we had time to talk. Something was going on that I was not aware of, and it disturbed me. Len and I took a walk along the river after dinner. "We could hardly ask for a better life, could we?" he said. "We have our home, the church is doing well, and we're starting our family. We have a lot to be thankful for." I nodded in agreement. "A lot has happened this year. The fire, the Lawtons' new life, and my reconciliation with Elizabeth. I hope I learned something from that experience." "We learn from every experience," Len replied. "It would be nice if the experiences could all be pleasant, but it doesn't work that way." We walked on in silence for a few minutes. Then Len said, "Has anything been bothering you lately, Mabel?" The question was so unexpected that I couldn't think what to answer. Something was bothering me, but I couldn't tell Len. "Why would you ask that?" I said. "Do I act worried?" "Augusta thinks I should pay more attention to you. She says I haven't been spending enough time at home. I certainly don't intend to neglect you, Mabel," Len continued. Besides helping Pa on the farm, the church is taking more of my day. Are you feeling left out?
Of course not, I exclaimed. I knew how busy a minister's life would be when I married you. I don't want you to do anything else. Why in the world would Augusta think I needed more attention? I have the best life anyone could possibly ask for.
There was no point in telling Len that I was plagued with Hudson's problems, I told myself. But a twinge of remorse hit me when I thought about having something in my life that could not be freely shared with my husband or my best friend. On Monday, Sarah Jane and I went to town to get the mail and to leave a harness to be mended at the blacksmith shop. We could see Hudson lying in wait in front of the post office. Sarah Jane reined in the horse and turned to face me. All right, Mabel, this has gone far enough. Either you tell me what this business is with Hudson Curtis, or I will get it out of him. And believe me, I'm not too inclined to be patient with that man. He has dogged your shadow for 2 weeks now, and I want to know why.
Well, at last! I was beginning to think you didn't care. I've known the day when you wouldn't let anything go for 2 hours.
Don't quibble.
I've wanted to tell you, Sarah Jane, really I have, but I promised Hudson that I wouldn't say anything. He seems to think his life would be over if anyone found out.
Then he can consider it over. Everyone in town knows that something is going on, and most of them have their own versions. None of them, I might add, are complimentary to either him or you.
Don't be silly, Sarah Jane. It's not me he's interested in, it's Colleen. Ever since the day he thought he was talking to me and discovered it was her.
If he hasn't been able to tell you apart since then, he's in worse shape than I thought. Can't he carry on his own courtship without including you? You're the one people have been watching, you know.
Oh, come on,
I said.
I can't believe that anyone in this town thinks I would be seeing Hudson Curtis behind Len's back.
I know it doesn't make sense, Sarah Jane shrugged, but it's true. I'm sure I haven't heard everything that's been said, but I've heard enough to know that action needs to be taken. I was stunned and angry. What right did Hudson have to put me in a position like this? At the same time, I had to admit that part of the blame was mine.
Len didn't really want me to try to get Hudson and Colleen together in the first place, I said. But I thought I was doing them both a favor. Somehow I got in so far I couldn't get back out.
We sat in silence as I mulled over the situation.
From now on, Hudson can look after his own reputation. He's been worried about what people would think if he kept company with someone who works in a saloon.
He worried about the wrong thing. What did he think you could do about it anyway?
I don't know, I said. Speak for him, I guess. Persuade Colleen to let him call on her or something. Obviously, from what she said, he's incapable of speaking for himself.
I certainly never thought there was anything going on between you and Hudson, Sarah Jane said. I didn't discuss it with you because I didn't want to tell you what people were saying. I knew eventually you'd send him packing. She looked at me and shook her head. I must say you didn't do yourself any favors. You told Augusta that you and Len were having a problem.
That was over keeping the cow off the porch. Augusta wouldn't let me tell her what I was fussing about.
I know, but it's worried her half to death. Then you snapped at Dorcas Gage when she mentioned that Hudson was in town whenever you were.
I was getting tired of having him follow me around. I didn't mean to snap at Dorcas. I can't go around town picking up the pieces. I'll just have to tell Hudson that he has got to stop. He's on his own from now on.
I'm glad that's settled, Sarah Jane said as she took up the reins. Let's go on with your errands. You don't have to defend yourself for something you haven't done. Do you think you could speak to him without taking a blunt instrument to his head?
I can try. I can't believe I've been so stupid. I'm glad Len is so understanding. It will be a relief to talk to him about it.
By the time we reached the post office, Hudson was gone. The speech I was rehearsing to deliver to him would have to wait. In the meantime, I intended to set Augusta's mind at ease and put this whole thing behind me. Rebecca Handy was in the post office, and she looked as happy as I'd ever seen her.
You must have gotten some good news in the mail, Sarah Jane said. Has someone left you a fortune?
It's good news, all right, but it wasn't in the mail, Rebecca answered. And it's better than a fortune. Would you have guessed a year ago that there would ever be a possibility of Lorenzo's getting married? Both Sarah Jane and I were struck speechless. Becky laughed delightedly at the expression on our faces. I can see that you wouldn't have. It won't be for some time, of course, but they are talking very seriously about it. I am so pleased that I'd like to tell the whole town. But I think I should let them make the announcement, don't you?
Oh, by all means, Sarah Jane said. We'll keep your secret, especially since we don't know who the lucky lady is.
Becky looked surprised. Why, Colleen, of course. Since Lorenzo's been learning sign language, they spend a lot of time talking together. I could see that he was beginning to care a lot for her, and I prayed that he wouldn't get his heart broken. But she seems just as fond of him.
I can see why, I said. Lorenzo is a wonderful fellow. I'm happy for both of them.
We picked up our mail and walked back to the buggy.
Mabel, have you ever spoken to Colleen about accepting the Lord as her Savior?
No, she has asked what we believe, and I've told her. She seemed to accept it, but she's never said anything about making a decision on her own.
I don't believe Lorenzo will marry her unless he is sure that she shares his faith, Sarah Jane said. Do you think we should talk to her about it?
Yes, I'm sure we should. I know she believes in God, but she may not realize that she can depend on him for everything in her life. That's a mighty good thing to know whether you're married or not.
It is, Sarah Jane agreed. I'm glad we were brought up in homes where that was proven to us. I think we'll know when the right time comes to share it with Colleen.
As Len and I sat on the porch after supper, I told him about all that had transpired over the past few weeks.
I didn't intend to deceive you, Len. Hudson was so sure that none of his affairs had anything to do with you and that you wouldn't even want to be bothered with them. I guess I felt sorry for him. Can you ever get used to my foolish mistakes?
Probably not, Len replied, but I can forgive them. I'll have to say that all the mistakes you make seem to be logical ones.
If you had told me not to interfere instead of suggesting it, all of this wouldn't have happened, you know.
Are you saying that I should take away your right to a free will? Len inquired with a grin. Even God doesn't do that.
I was just looking for a way that someone else could be blamed beside me, I said. I can't even share it with Sarah Jane this time. Can you imagine what she would have said to Hudson?
I think I can, Len laughed. Let's not worry about it any longer. People will stop talking soon enough if they run out of fuel.
End of chapter 7.